Chronogony, the Time War. In the distant future, humanity has reached a high level of technological development and was able to create a unique device called the Chronogony. This device made it possible to travel not only in space, but also in time. With the power of thought, people could travel to the past or the future, exploring and changing the course of history. One day, Professor Leonid, an outstanding scientist and inventor, decided to conduct an experiment using the Chronogony. He traveled to the distant past to study one of the key events in human history, the Second World War. However, the professor failed to accurately predict the consequences of his actions. When Leonid arrived in 1943, he discovered that Nazi German troops were conducting secret experiments to create weapons using technologies from the future. These weapons were so powerful that they could change the course of the war and affect the future of the whole world. Professor Leonid realized that it was necessary to intervene immediately to prevent a catastrophe. He decided to create his own technologies to resist the enemy and save the world from destruction. Gathering a group of brave scientists and engineers from the past, Leonid began to develop modern weapons capable of competing with the terrifying developments of the Nazis. The battle of the forces of the past and the future unfolded on the battlefields of the Second World War. Professor Leonid and his team fought not only for survival in that time, but also for the preservation of the future of all mankind. They used their knowledge and courage to confront the dark threat, overtaking them in an incredible battle between the technologies of the future and the past. But in this time war, not everything was so simple. The effects of changing the past began to be felt in the present. Some of the events that occurred as a result of Leonid's intervention led to unforeseen consequences. Reality began to distort. Temporary paradoxes threatened to destroy everything that existed. In the chaos of the Time War, Professor Leonid realized that it was necessary to make a decision that could restore balance and prevent a catastrophe. He decided to go to the farthest point of the past, where the chain of events began, which led to distortions of the timeline. Traveling through epochs and space, Leonid found himself in a moment that became the key to the whole problem. He met with himself from the past, who made an important decision that distorted the course of history. Faced with himself, Leonid realized what needed to be done. The professor began to convince his past self to make a different choice, to change his actions in order to prevent a catastrophe and preserve reality. By a difficult struggle with himself, Leonid was able to convince his past self of the need to change his mind. And so, when the professor returned to the present, he found that the timeline had been restored and the distortions had disappeared. The world was saved from the chaos that almost led to the death of all things. Leonid realized the value of the game over time and decided not to interfere with the natural course of things anymore. Thus ended the Chronogony, the Time War, leaving humanity with the lesson that even forces capable of conquering time must be used responsibly. Time is not just a resource for manipulation, but a thin thread connecting the whole existence.